Have you ever stopped to wonder if your kitchen, that warm heart of your home, might be quietly putting your health at risk? It's a tough truth to face, and honestly, I used to think my kitchen was a perfectly safe space, just like many of us do. I pictured those beautiful old dishes passed down through generations, and the convenience of modern gadgets as harmless helpers. But sometimes, the things we trust most can hold hidden dangers, especially for seniors like us, whose bodies don't bounce back as easily as they once did. I remember laughing with my friends about how obsessed we all are with clean kitchens and the newest appliances, thinking nothing could go wrong there. But the reality is different. Invisible threats are lurking in everyday items, from worn cookware to unseen radiation, that can quietly wear down our health over time. The good news? These risks aren't something you have to accept or fear. There are simple, practical steps you can take to protect yourself and your loved ones without turning your life upside down. In this video, I'll share little-known tips that can help you transform your kitchen into a truly safe and nurturing space, a place where every meal nourishes both body and soul. Imagine feeling more confident and peaceful in your home, knowing you've taken care of these silent hazards. So, what hidden kitchen risks have you noticed or worried about? I'd love to hear your thoughts, because you deserve to live well and worry less every single day. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. Now, let's begin. 1. Old ceramic and glassware. I'll never forget the day my granddaughter brought home a box of old dishes from a local yard sale, her eyes sparkling as she said, "Grandma, these look just like the ones in your old photos." She was right. The colors were bold, the patterns so familiar. Instantly, I was transported back to childhood dinners in my mother's kitchen. There was comfort in the weight of that old ceramic bowl, the way the sunlight hit the hand-painted glaze, and how everyone reached for their favorite plate. For many of us, these pieces hold memories far more precious than their dollar value. It's hard to imagine that something so dear could be anything but good for us. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. You see, as we age, we become more aware of the things we once took for granted. I've spent my whole life believing that the past was safer, simpler, and more wholesome. So when I heard about concerns with old ceramics and glassware, I felt a little pang of resistance. Surely, my grandmother's dishes couldn't harm anyone, right? After all, they survived decades of Sunday suppers, birthday cakes, and pots of chicken noodle soup. They felt like part of the family. And yet, sometimes the most treasured things can quietly bring hidden risks. I remember sitting with my neighbor, Helen, who's even more sentimental than I am. She just served homemade apple pie on a set of plates she inherited from her great-aunt. The edges were worn, and the colors had faded a little, but Helen smiled as she told the story behind each chip and crack. We sipped coffee and shared a laugh about how they just don't make them like they used to. But that afternoon, I read an article that changed the way I looked at those old beauties forever. Did you know that many ceramics and glassware made before the 1970s, especially those with vivid colors or shiny glazes, were crafted with materials we now know to be dangerous? It's true. In the quest for brilliant reds, deep yellows, or even the iconic ivory of vintage plates, manufacturers often used metals and compounds like uranium and lead. Back then, people didn't realize these could leach into food, especially when the dishes held something hot or acidic, like tomato soup or a fresh squeeze of orange juice. The most famous example might be the bright orange-red Fiesta where so many American families collected, especially in the 30s and 40s. The secret to its unforgettable glow? Uranium oxide is mixed right into the glaze. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's history, and for many years, nobody worried about a little extra sparkle in the dinnerware. Even today, pieces like these can be found in thrift stores, antique shops, or tucked away in a cabinet, waiting for a special occasion. It's not just uranium, either. Many beautiful plates and cups from the past were coated with glazes containing lead or cadmium to achieve that perfect finish. Over time, especially with frequent use, the glaze can wear down or develop fine cracks, and that's when tiny particles may migrate into the food you're eating. For a long time, regulators didn't know the dangers, and testing wasn't what it is today. But as research evolved, so did our understanding of the risks. When I first learned this, my heart sank. I thought of all the times I'd spooned hot stew or tart lemon pudding into those old bowls, proud to carry on a family tradition. The idea that I might have exposed my loved ones, or myself, to invisible threats was hard to swallow. It was even more unsettling to realize that, as we get older, our bodies simply aren't as resilient as they used to be. Our immune systems are slower, our organs have worked for many decades, and the ability to detoxify certain substances isn't what it was in our 30s. A small exposure here and there might not matter much to a child, but for someone with a lifetime of little exposures, the risk quietly builds. So what does that mean for those of us who adore the old ways? Should we pack up our cherished dishes and hide them away forever? I don't think so, but I do think we need to be thoughtful. The first step, I realized, was learning how to tell which items might be risky. There are clues if you know where to look. Dishes that are especially vibrant, especially red, orange, yellow, or with a glossy, thick glaze, are the most likely to have been made with uranium, lead, or cadmium. American Fiesta ware, British Clarice Cliff, and other vintage ceramics are on the list. Even some older glassware, like depression glass with colored tints, may contain traces of harmful metals. One gentle test is to see if a dish is rough, cracked, or crazed, tiny spiderweb cracks in the glaze. If so, it's best not to use it for food. Acidic foods, think tomato sauce, vinegar, citrus, or wine, are the most likely to draw harmful substances out of the glaze. Another smart move is to check whether the manufacturer ever recalled that pattern or if experts have tested it. There are even simple lead test kits you can find at the hardware store for a little peace of mind. And most importantly, I learned that those old beauties can still shine as part of my home, just not on my dinner table. They look just as lovely on a shelf, in a hutch, or as a serving piece for wrapped candies or nuts, where they're less likely to come in contact with food. Of course, it can be hard to let go of habits that feel like home. My friend Helen struggled with the thought of putting her gray Tance plates out of commission. She called her daughter, worried she was being overly cautious, but her daughter simply said, "Mom, you can always make new memories, but you can't undo the old risks." That gentle encouragement was all Helen needed to start a new tradition. Now, those cherished plates hang on her wall, where everyone can see and appreciate their story without worry. We still laugh, we still eat pie, but the plates are a backdrop, not the main course. If you're like me, you may feel a pang of sadness thinking about the hidden risks in something so familiar. But I promise, it's not about living in fear. It's about caring for ourselves and our families in new ways as we move through life. The kitchen is still the heart of the home. We're just making sure it keeps beating strong for many more years to come. And if you're ever in doubt, there are so many beautiful, safe options out there now. New ceramics made to modern safety standards, sturdy stoneware, glass, stainless steel, or even wood. You don't have to sacrifice beauty for safety, and you certainly don't have to let go of the comfort those old dishes represent. Sometimes, I catch myself standing in front of my kitchen shelf, fingers tracing the rim of a vintage cup, memories rushing back. I smile, knowing that I'm keeping those memories alive, but also making wiser choices for the future. It's a gentle act of love, both for myself and for the next generation. And isn't that what home is really about? Creating spaces that are rich with history but always looking forward, choosing both beauty and health. So if you have a cupboard full of vintage treasures, give them a little extra thought today. Celebrate their stories, display them with pride, but consider using safer alternatives for everyday meals. You'll still enjoy the warmth and nostalgia, but with a little extra peace of mind. And when your grandchildren come over, You'll have stories to share, not just about the old days, but about the choices you made to keep your family safe and well. That, to me, is a tradition worth passing on. In the end, the real treasure isn't in the plates or the bowls, but in the people gathered around the table, and the wisdom we carry into each new season of life. 2. Non-stick cookware with chemical coatings. If you were to peek inside almost any American kitchen drawer today, you'd likely find at least one trusty non-stick frying pan, maybe with a well-worn plastic spatula resting inside. I know I certainly had mine, passed down from my daughter, who'd picked it up at a department store sale. "It's so easy to clean, Mom," she'd said. And she was right. For years, that pan made breakfast a breeze. No more burned-on eggs or stubborn oatmeal stuck to the bottom. But as with so many things in life, the greatest convenience sometimes comes with hidden costs, ones that we might not notice until later. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Back when non-stick pans first arrived on the scene, they felt like a miracle. I remember the television ads, cheerful homemakers flipping perfect pancakes, their spatulas gliding across gleaming black surfaces. No grease, no fuss, no mess. For busy families and folks with aching joints or less strength in their hands, non-stick cookware seemed like a gift. It meant less scrubbing, less elbow grease, and more time spent with loved ones instead of wrestling with stubborn pots and pans at the sink. But what the advertisements didn't say was what made those pans so slippery. Most non-stick cookware is coated with a chemical called PTFE, polytetrafluoroethylene, the most famous brand being Teflon. For a long time, PTFE was considered safe as long as it wasn't overheated. But the truth is, temperatures in a kitchen can rise quickly, especially if you're busy or distracted. It only takes a couple of minutes of preheating an empty pan on high for the coating to start breaking down, releasing fumes you can't see or smell. At first, I thought those stories about Teflon fumes were just old wives' tales. But one day, while making Sunday breakfast, I got distracted by a phone call. When I returned to the stove, a strange odor filled the air. My eyes watered, and my parakeet, Daisy, chirped anxiously from her cage. I later learned that pet birds are incredibly sensitive to the fumes released by overheated PTFE, so much so that even a brief exposure can be fatal. The thought made my heart race. If those invisible gases could harm a tiny bird, what might they be doing to us, especially to older bodies that aren't as resilient as they once were? There's more to the story, too. For many years, another chemical called PFOA, perfluorooctanoic acid, was used to manufacture non-stick coatings. PFOA is what scientists call a forever chemical. It doesn't break down easily, and it can linger in our bodies and the environment for decades. Research has linked long-term exposure to PFOA with an increased risk of certain cancers, thyroid problems, and weakened immune systems. Thankfully, American manufacturers phased out PFOA in recent years, but many pans from the early 2000s or older might still contain it. And some new chemicals used as replacements may not be as safe as we'd like to believe, either. For seniors, this is particularly important. Our kidneys and livers, after a lifetime of faithful service, may not flush out toxins as efficiently as before. Years of tiny exposures can add up, especially when combined with other health challenges. The risk isn't only about what we inhale. When a non-stick pan is scratched or begins to peel, a common sight after years of stirring and flipping, tiny bits of the coating can end up in our food. It's a queasy thought, one I wish I'd considered sooner. I remember having coffee with my neighbor, Ruth, one chilly autumn afternoon. She told me how she used to use her favorite non-stick pan for everything, from scrambled eggs to sautéed veggies. But after her son sent her an article about chemical coatings and their risks, she started to worry. "I'm too old to take chances with my health now," she confided. Together, we rummaged through her kitchen cupboards, holding each pan up to the light to check for scratches, chips, or worn spots. We laughed at the ones that looked more silver than black. In the end, Ruth decided to retire her oldest pans and invest in something safer. That's the beauty of experience. We're never too old to learn, change, and make wiser choices for ourselves and those we love. For every convenience modern life brings, there's usually a way to keep the comfort while minimizing the risk. The switch doesn't have to be dramatic or expensive. Today, there are plenty of safer alternatives. Cast iron, stainless steel, high-quality ceramic pans free of PFAS and PTFE. Cast iron can seem intimidating at first, but once it's well seasoned, it's just as non-stick and adds a bit of healthy iron to your meals. Stainless steel may take a little getting used to, but it's virtually indestructible, and nothing beats the feeling of making a meal in a pan you know is safe. Of course, I know change can be hard. That old non-stick skillet may be your favorite for flipping pancakes with the grandkids, or for frying a quick egg on a slow morning. If you're not ready to give it up just yet, here are some gentle steps you can take to make it safer. First, never preheat an empty non-stick pan. Always add a bit of oil or butter, and keep the heat on low to medium. Avoid metal utensils, which can scratch the surface and release more coating into your food. And if you notice any flaking, peeling, or major scratches, it's time to say goodbye, no matter how many memories are tied up in that pan. Another tip is to keep the kitchen well ventilated when cooking with non-stick pans. Open a window or turn on the range hood to help clear out any fumes before they build up. And always store your non-stick cookware carefully. Nesting pans inside one another can cause more scratches, so try to use a paper towel or soft cloth between them. What matters most is remembering that your health and peace of mind come first. It's easy to overlook hidden dangers in the places we feel most at home, but with a little awareness and a willingness to make small changes, we can keep our kitchens safe and nurturing for years to come. Looking back, I sometimes miss the days when I didn't have to worry about chemicals in my cookware. But I've come to realize that knowledge is a gift, too. It allows us to keep enjoying the things we love, delicious meals, laughter with family, while making sure we protect ourselves from harm that isn't always visible. My kitchen is still a place of joy, filled with good smells and happy memories. Now, though, there's an extra layer of care and intention in every meal I cook. So, if you're standing at your stove, stirring soup or flipping eggs, I hope you'll take a moment to think about the tools you're using. Maybe give your favorite pan a little inspection. If it's time for a change, don't be afraid. Embrace it as an act of self-care, a gift to yourself and those you love. After all, the best meals aren't just about taste or tradition. They're about safety, comfort, and the simple joy of sharing a table with the people who matter most. And remember, it's never too late to make a new choice, start a safer habit, or invest in your well-being. A healthier kitchen can be a beautiful new chapter, filled with old stories and new beginnings. 3. Granite countertops. If you walk into any home improvement store or flip through the glossy pages of a decorating magazine, you'll notice a familiar promise. Granite countertops, it seems, are the gold standard of a modern American kitchen. They're strong, beautiful, and built to last a lifetime. I remember when my son remodeled my kitchen for my 70th birthday. He said, "Mom, nothing says you've made it like granite." We admired the swirling colors and unique patterns, the cool touch under our hands as we prepared Sunday dinners together. I never once questioned whether that solid slab could be anything but safe. How could a rock be a risk? Granite's story in our homes is about more than style or status. It's about feeling rooted and permanent, like we've created a lasting foundation for our families. I remember friends coming over and running their hands along the surface, marveling at the stone's cool elegance. It felt timeless, like something that would witness generations of stories, pies baked with grandkids, and endless cups of coffee at dawn. But as the years went by, I started reading news reports and medical articles that made me pause. There was talk of radon and radiation, and it all sounded so distant, almost like something from a science fiction movie. I shrugged it off at first. I'd lived in this house for years after all, and I hadn't noticed a thing. But sometimes, The greatest risks are the ones we never see, hear, or smell. One day, my neighbor Evelyn called in a panic. "Do you know your countertop could be giving off radioactive gas?" she asked, her voice trembling. I laughed, at first, thinking she was worrying over nothing. But Evelyn had lost her husband to lung problems a few years before, and when you've been through something like that, you take these stories to heart. So I decided to do some digging, not into the granite, but into the facts. It turns out that granite, as natural and ancient as it is, sometimes contains tiny traces of uranium, thorium, or potassium-40, elements found in the Earth's crust. Over millions of years, these elements break down and release radon, a radioactive gas. Most granite contains very little, and in most homes, the levels are so low that you'd never notice. But certain slabs, especially those with dramatic coloring or exotic patterns, can give off more radon than others. And radon isn't something to take lightly. According to the EPA, it's the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States, after smoking. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. I remember the first time I heard the word radon. It sounded abstract, like background noise, until I realized it could be seeping silently from my beautiful countertop and lingering in the air I breathe every day. The tricky thing about radon is you can't see it, smell it, or taste it. It's just there, like an uninvited guest. In homes that are well ventilated, radon levels usually stay low. But as we age, many of us spend more time indoors, especially in the kitchen, where we prepare meals, read the paper, and chat with friends. For seniors, whose lungs and immune systems are more delicate, even low levels of radon can quietly increase our risk over time. I didn't want to panic. I didn't want to throw out the gift my son had given me, or tear up my kitchen in fear. Instead, I started looking for sensible steps I could take. I opened the windows more often, especially when cooking. I made sure the range hood vented to the outside, not just back into the room. I learned you can buy simple radon test kits at most hardware stores. For less than the cost of dinner at a diner, you can get real answers about the air in your home. I remember the first time I tested my kitchen. I felt nervous, like waiting for results from the doctor. But when the results came back, I felt a wave of relief. My radon levels were within safe limits. Still, I'm glad I checked. Sometimes, peace of mind is the best gift you can give yourself. Over coffee one morning, I shared what I'd learned with my friend Alice. She just had a new countertop installed in her retirement condo. "I never thought twice about it," she said. "I just wanted something pretty that would last." We talked about how, when we were young, nobody warned us about asbestos or lead paint, either. We did the best we could with what we knew at the time. Now, as we learn more, it's not about living in fear. It's about being wise, taking action when we can, and helping others do the same. If you already have granite, don't worry. Most slabs in American homes are perfectly safe, and the real danger is only with a few high radon varieties. The key is good ventilation. Open your kitchen window when the weather allows. Use a vent fan that moves air outside, not just around the room. And if you want extra peace of mind, a radon test is a simple way to check. If levels are high, there are fixes, like special fans that draw radon from below your home and vent it outdoors. These are the kinds of small changes that can make a big difference over the years. Thinking about new countertops? There are plenty of safe, beautiful options. Engineered quartz, butcher block, marble, and solid surface materials each have their own character and charm. They're easy to clean and don't carry the same concerns as granite. Whatever you choose, the most important thing is creating a kitchen where you feel safe, healthy, and at peace. For me, granite will always hold a certain magic. It reminds me of the Earth's strength, of family milestones, and of a certain pride that comes from building something lasting. But now, that pride is matched by a new kind of wisdom, a willingness to ask questions, to seek answers, and to make little adjustments that keep my home welcoming for all who enter. As we get older, our homes become more than just places to live. They're havens, sanctuaries, and the backdrop for countless moments both big and small. It's worth taking the time to understand the materials we surround ourselves with. Because every little thing we do, from cracking a window to choosing a safer countertop, adds up to years of memories, laughter, and love. In the end, I'm grateful for what granite brought to my kitchen, just as I'm grateful for the lessons it taught me. We can't control every risk in life, but we can control how we respond, with calm, courage, and the confidence that comes from looking out for ourselves and those we love. So next time you run your hand over a cool stone countertop, let it remind you not just of nature's beauty, but of the quiet strength that comes with wisdom and care. Our homes are our castles, and we deserve to enjoy them, safely, joyfully, and with full peace of mind. 4. Microwave oven radiation. If there's one kitchen appliance I've grown to rely on over the years, it's the microwave. I still remember the first time my husband wheeled a big, boxy model into our home. It was heavy as a safe and took up half the counter. "It cooks a potato in 5 minutes," he boasted, grinning like he'd brought home a magic trick. At first, I was skeptical. How could invisible waves heat food faster than a stove? But as the years rolled by, that old microwave became part of the family, humming away through late-night snacks, quick breakfasts, and countless cups of coffee reheated while I talked on the phone or watched the grandkids. Microwaves have become so ordinary in our kitchens that most of us barely think about how they work, or if there could be any risk involved. We trust them to be safe, like a trusty old toaster or fridge. But, like many things we've welcomed into our lives for convenience, there's more beneath the surface than meets the eye. I once joked with my daughter that the only real danger from the microwave was burning your tongue on a hot bowl of soup. But as I got older and started paying closer attention to my health, and to the stories shared by other seniors, I began to wonder about the invisible side of these appliances. The microwave radiation itself. Microwaves use a form of non-ionizing radiation, which sounds scary, but it's different from the bad radiation we think of with X-rays or nuclear plants. Instead, microwaves create energy that makes the water molecules in food jiggle, producing heat. That's what cooks your meal. When the oven is in good shape, this energy stays inside, bouncing around in the metal box until your leftovers are steaming. But as with anything that's used daily, wear and tear can creep in over the years. Seals wear down, doors don't close as tightly, hinges get a little loose. Most people, myself included, don't notice these changes until someone points them out, or until something feels off. A friend from my church group, Mary, told me about a time she was microwaving her tea when she noticed a strange buzzing sound and a faint burning smell. Her microwave was old, with a door that didn't close flush anymore. After some research, Mary learned that small leaks of microwave radiation can happen when seals or latches fail, allowing the waves to escape. Now, you won't glow in the dark from this kind of exposure, and a short burst isn't likely to harm you, but chronic exposure, even at low levels, can have effects that build up over time, especially for those of us whose bodies are more sensitive in our senior years. Some scientists believe that repeated low-level microwave leakage could contribute to headaches, sleep disturbances, or even changes in how our hearts or nervous systems function. While the research is still ongoing and there's plenty of debate, I've come to believe that it's better to be cautious, especially as our bodies become less able to bounce back from small daily stresses. And for those of us who already have heart conditions, pacemakers, or other sensitive medical devices, a little extra care is never wasted. There's also the habit, one I was guilty of for years, of standing right in front of the microwave, peering through the window to watch food spin around. My grandkids love to do this too, their faces pressed close as if it's a TV show. But experts say it's best to keep a few steps back when the microwave is on. Just a couple feet of distance makes a world of difference in how much energy reaches your body, even if there's a minor leak. Another tip that changed my routine was keeping the microwave clean, especially around the door seals and frame. Crumbs, spills, or built-up grease can keep the door from closing completely, and even a small gap can allow microwaves to slip out. I started making it a habit, once a week, to give the edges and latch a good wipe with a damp cloth. Nothing fancy, just a little extra attention. And if I noticed any cracks, dents, or warping around the door, I made a note to mention it to my son the next time he visited. Sometimes the safest step is the simplest one. When in doubt, replace an old or damaged microwave rather than risk years of subtle exposure. Of course, none of this means we need to throw out our microwaves and go back to boiling everything on the stove. The convenience is too great, and there are so many safe ways to keep using them. For starters, always use microwave-safe containers. No metal, cracked plastic, or dishes with metallic paint. And avoid microwaving food in plastic wrap or cheap containers not labeled as microwave safe, as they can release chemicals into your food when heated. For those who like a little extra peace of mind, there are affordable home microwave radiation leak testers available. My neighbor Ed, ever the gadget guy, picked one up and offered to test our group's appliances after bingo night. It was a fun way to learn together, and gave us all reassurance that our kitchens were as safe as we thought. I also learned to check if my microwave's window mesh was intact and undamaged. That mesh isn't just decoration. It acts as a barrier to keep microwaves inside the oven. If it's damaged, it's time for a new appliance. The truth is, aging brings enough challenges on its own. Our sleep can become lighter, our balance a bit less steady, and our bodies more vulnerable to small, daily stresses. Anything we can do to reduce unnecessary risks, especially invisible ones, is a gift to ourselves and our families. Sometimes, it's the smallest actions, like stepping away from the microwave or giving the seals a weekly wipe, that make the biggest difference over time. I once worried that talking about things like microwave radiation would make me sound like an alarmist, or that my kids would roll their eyes and say, "Mom, you worry too much." But as I've gotten older, I've realized that wisdom is in asking questions, sharing what we learn, and supporting each other in small, thoughtful ways. It's not about living in fear, it's about taking care of the life and health we've worked so hard to build. Now, when I make my morning oatmeal or reheat leftovers, I do it with just a little more care. I keep a safe distance, check the door, and keep things clean. These are gentle, practical steps anyone can take. And I tell my grandkids, as they stand on tiptoe to watch their popcorn pop, just a little farther back, honey, let's watch together from here. It's a small change, but it's one that gives me peace of mind. As seniors, we deserve to feel safe and confident in our kitchens. After all, the kitchen is still the heart of the home, a place for warmth, nourishment, and connection. By being aware of the hidden risks and taking simple steps to protect ourselves, we can keep it that way for years to come. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. So the next time you press start on your microwave, take a moment to remember, your health is worth that little extra care. Because every day, every meal, every bit of peace you create for yourself is a precious gift, one you truly deserve. 5. Wi-Fi router and mobile phone radiation. If someone had told me 40 years ago that invisible waves would one day fill my kitchen, helping me send photos to my grandchildren in seconds or listen to my favorite old songs as I chopped vegetables, I'd have thought they were dreaming. Technology has brought us wonders. My daughter sets her phone on the counter and reads out recipes, and my son FaceTimes me every Sunday morning, his voice crisp as if he's right in my living room. But in this web of invisible connection, I've come to learn that not all progress is without its costs, especially when it comes to our health. I used to think of my kitchen as the safest spot in my house, a haven of warmth and family. But these days, it's not just the sizzle of bacon or the whir of the dishwasher that fills the air. There's the steady hum of the Wi-Fi router tucked behind the bread box, blinking quietly day and night, and the smartphones left charging on the countertop. Most of the time, I don't even think about them. They're as much a part of the scenery as the salt and pepper shakers. It was my grandson who first got me thinking. He's a clever boy, always tinkering with gadgets, and one day he asked, "Grandma, did you know your Wi-Fi talks to your phone using radio waves?" I laughed and told him it sounded like magic, but then he explained that those same waves, called radio frequency, RF radiation, are everywhere now. In our homes, our cars, even our pockets. I'd heard rumors, of course, about cell phone radiation and the debate about whether it's safe. For years, I brushed it aside, figuring if it was really dangerous, someone would have sounded the alarm by now. But as I grew older, and as more friends complained of headaches, trouble sleeping, or foggy thinking, I began to wonder if maybe these modern miracles weren't as harmless as we assumed, especially for those of us whose bodies are more sensitive with age. Science is still learning about the long-term effects of constant exposure to RF radiation, especially as our homes have become flooded with signals 24 hours a day. Some studies have linked high levels of exposure to symptoms like fatigue, disturbed sleep, memory problems, or, in rare cases, more serious health risks. For seniors, whose natural production of melatonin, the sleep hormone, is already lower and whose bodies are working overtime to keep up with the changes of age, anything that further disrupts rest or puts strain on the immune system can be especially hard. I remember a particularly restless night after I left my phone charging on my bedside table. I tossed and turned, my mind racing, and woke up groggy and out of sorts. Later, I read that even small exposures to RF radiation during sleep can interfere with the body's ability to rest and heal. That's when I began to make a few changes, not out of fear, but out of love for myself and the people who share my home. First, I moved the Wi-Fi router out of the kitchen. It was so easy to do. I asked my son to help, and he put it in the hallway, away from the spots where we spend the most time. I also started switching it off at night. At first, my daughter worried it would be inconvenient, but soon we found we all slept more soundly with the router silent until morning. It's a small step, but it made a real difference. I also set a new habit of leaving my phone in another room while I slept, or at the very least, putting it on airplane mode. During the day, I used the speakerphone or wired headphones for long conversations, rather than pressing the phone directly to my ear. And whenever my grandkids come over, I make sure the kitchen table is a tech-free zone, at least during meals. We laugh more, talk more, and I like to think our hearts are a little lighter for it. Of course, I know we can't avoid technology entirely, nor would I want to. It's brought me closer to family and helped me stay independent and connected. But there's wisdom in creating some boundaries. The experts say that even a few feet of distance from the router or a phone can dramatically reduce your exposure to radio frequency waves. Thick walls help too, and using an Ethernet cable for computers is a simple, safe alternative if you don't need to roam around with your device. Some of my friends have asked whether all this is really necessary. Isn't it just being overly cautious? One of them asked over coffee. But as I told her, we've seen before how small risks add up over time. Our generation learned about lead paint and asbestos the hard way. Now, with so many new technologies in our lives, it's wise to be mindful, especially when the steps are so easy. One afternoon, my neighbor Martha stopped by to borrow some sugar, her phone tucked in her apron pocket. She'd been feeling tired lately, with headaches she blamed on the weather. We talked about her habits, sleeping with her phone beside her pillow, spending hours at her kitchen table with the router on the windowsill beside her. She decided to try moving things around and noticed, after a week or so, that her sleep and focus had improved. It wasn't a miracle cure, but she felt better, and that was enough for her. As we grow older, it's natural to become more sensitive to our surroundings. Our bodies carry decades of experience, resilience, and sometimes a little extra vulnerability. Creating a home environment that's peaceful and safe is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. It's not about living in fear or throwing away every gadget, but about thoughtful choices, using technology wisely, taking breaks, and making the kitchen a space for conversation and comfort instead of constant connection. I sometimes smile at how different my kitchen looks now compared to years ago. Less cluttered with gadgets, more focused on the people gathered around the table. The Wi-Fi router quietly does its work from down the hall, and my phone gets a nightly rest just like I do. I feel more rested, more present, and, perhaps most importantly, more in control of my own well-being. If you're wondering whether these small changes are worth it, let me offer this. Your health and peace of mind are precious, and you deserve to feel safe and energized in your own home. So next time you set down your phone or notice where your Wi-Fi router is humming away, consider giving yourself a little more space. Try turning things off at night, or setting boundaries for technology during meals and rest. You may be surprised at how much lighter and calmer you feel. In this modern world, invisible risks sometimes hide in the places we least expect. But with a little wisdom and care, we can create kitchens and lives that are filled not just with connection, but with true well-being and joy. After all, we've earned it, haven't we? Here's to many more years of laughter, good food, and the peace of knowing we're looking out for ourselves and those we love. As we come to the close of this journey through the hidden corners of our kitchens, I want you to take a moment and breathe. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when learning about all the unseen risks that might be lurking where we prepare our meals. But remember, knowledge is a gift, and with it comes power. We've walked together through stories and truths about everyday items, from cherished old dishes to modern devices buzzing quietly in the background. And what I hope you take away most is a sense of calm and control. You've cared for yourself and your loved ones through decades of life's ups and downs, and now it's time to care for the very space that nourishes you. Making small, thoughtful changes doesn't mean giving up the comforts or memories you hold dear. It means honoring your body, your health, and your peace of mind by creating a kitchen that's not just warm and welcoming, but safe and healing too. You deserve to enjoy every meal, every laugh, every gathering around your table without worry. And by choosing to be mindful of these hidden dangers, you're embracing a new chapter, one of wisdom, self-respect, and love. So, as you move forward, remember, your home is your sanctuary, your kitchen its beating heart, and you hold the key to keeping both healthy and full of life. Thank you for joining me today. If this video has opened your eyes or inspired you, please share your thoughts below. What changes will you make to keep your kitchen safe? And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so we can continue this journey to better health together. You deserve nothing less.